This is Jay Horn, your Christian life and relationship coach. And today I wanted to talk about being with her book, and she was vulnerable and she was able to really express herself and get out in the open all the things she has been through. And for me, I was just like, I don't know if I can be that vulnerable. And I could just be because of my trust issues. But I was having a conversation with God, and he was showing me the my character. And one thing I feel like you know how when people be like, I feel like when they say they're real, like they just keep it real, like they just say how they feel. Like I feel like that's me. But lately, or within years, that being real can hurt people. So I'm not as real, but I still kind of say how I feel. And that was one of the characteristics my cousin was like, told me how what she liked about me. She was like, you were always the girl who said the things that like you want to say, but you don't say it because you care what people think. But um, I felt like by me being real, I was vulnerable. Like I'm taking a risk of saying how I feel. And I've learned that those are two completely different things. And this is how I've learned that I have not been vulnerable. So, God has been taking me on this healing journey. He has been having me go through this abide in Him phase of my life. And one of the things he was telling me is that it's hard for me to be real with him because, in essence, he's God, right? So, growing up, I've always had this thing where I felt like um, you're supposed to have this, like, I'm trying to think of the words for it when it comes to God. Like you can't really be open. Like you have to have that relationship with him like all is well because he's God, and so you don't tell him how you truly feel, right? Like hi for those who have joined in. Um so for me, like when I'm in pain and you know that God is good, um, you say, hey, God, this doesn't bother me. And God was showing me how I wasn't being real with myself. So when things bothered me, I was like, oh no, it doesn't bother me. I'm fine. This is and that. And God was like, no, Jay, it does bother you. And if you're not being real with how it makes you feel, you can't be real with me. So that goes back to me talking about being vulnerable. I wasn't being vulnerable with, well, in essence, nobody. But God was telling me how I wasn't um, being real with Him. So I wasn't even being vulnerable with Him. Like literally, Him telling him how I feel about even him because of the Christianese. I always call it Christianese, but that way you feel like you have to be like, how dare you feel this way about God? And obviously, God knows how you feel about him because he's God. But at least to be able to be vulnerable and tell him you how you feel. So God, in my quiet time, God was revealing to me that it is okay to let him know how you feel. Like he already knows, but the difference is he's teaching us how to be honest with ourselves and to also sit in the feeling of uncomfortableness. So he was telling me that, and he was saying to me how I truly haven't been vulnerable with anybody. Like I don't tell people how I feel. And again, I thought I was keeping it real with people and telling them how I feel. And I wasn't. I technically have never been vulnerable with anybody until recently when I started to be vulnerable with God. And me being vulnerable with God was me telling God, like, yeah, this hurts. Like, yeah, I'm mad at you. Yeah, I don't understand why you're doing this. yeah, I don't want to live in this, like, not like live like that, but like live in like, this is so painful that like, why do you have me still on this earth? I was literally being like a Job in the Bible, like, take my life now, Lord, like, this is too much for me to bear. I was just being real with him. I was just really telling him how I feel, and like being vulnerable with God like that caused me to be like, well, dang, this actually feels good. Like, you are someone we can come to with all our problems and not feel like being judged because you feel that way. And when I had that vulnerable moment with God, I was able to see how I'm not like that with people. I don't go to people or tell people, like, hey, this really bothers me. Like, this really hurt me. I'll be like, oh, no, it didn't hurt. Excuse me, my light just, the curtain just fell. So when God showed me that, like, I would, if I couldn't be, I wasn't being vulnerable with him, I literally didn't have anybody to be vulnerable with. And then I thought to myself, like, why is it so hard to be vulnerable? Because one, you don't want to be judged. And for me, the reason why it was hard to be vulnerable is because I didn't want to be thrown back in my face. Like, whatever I told people, I did not want that thrown back in my face, because obviously it was hard to say. But I feel like I didn't really have anybody in my life where I could be truly like real to the point where I feel safe with. Like, if I tell you this, I know you're not going to tell everybody. Not one person. Um, and I could say maybe it's also because I just never took the chance to trust in people to give them that information. And I can even say that that's actually real because I do have trust issues. I do not let people in. And so I remember when I was a kid, teenager to be exact, one of my dearest friends said that I was closed off. And I didn't understand what that meant. Like, what does he mean by I'm closed off? Like, what is exactly, what is he trying to get out of me? But I understand it now as I am 40, that I was closed off because I did not let him into my world. I do not let people into my world because I don't trust people with the information. And that's also just because I wasn't vulnerable with anybody, right? And so God has been teaching me that. God has been teaching me, hi, everybody who's joining. God has been teaching me that it's okay to be able to say how you feel. And even for you guys out there, if you guys can share, like, do you guys have a hard time being vulnerable and letting people know how you feel and why? Like, why do you feel like it's so hard? And like, again, for me, it's because I don't trust people with that information. I never felt safe enough to let someone know how I truly feel without it being, um, sorry, I was reading a comment, without it being thrown back in my face. And I think that is just because of the type of environment I was raised in. Like, it wasn't a safe environment to where you can be vulnerable because they truly would use it against me. So I guess that's where the vulnerability reason why I'm not vulnerable is because my environment didn't make it safe enough, and so I passed it on or kept it in growing up. And being in relationships, like if you're in a loving or committed relationship, that's one thing, the values that you values is the word I'm trying to use. Oh no. One of the things that you need to have in relationships is to be able to be vulnerable. And that's one thing that I wasn't able to bring into a relationship, is that part of me. I was just very closed off. And I will definitely talk more about that coming in my future uh I was gonna say podcast, but future series and stories, or talking about like me being fearful avoidant. Like, again, now I get it. Now I get why closeness was scary for me. So I definitely am going to do a series on attachment wounds. So look forward to that. But yeah, I just want to talk about being vulnerable and why it's hard for some people, and and it's okay to be vulnerable with God because he definitely knows, he already knows you. But now he's waiting for to express yourself and to be able to say how you feel. Like, do you trust him with how you feel and to be real with yourself? And that's what God was showing me in my quiet time. He was showing me that I was not being real with myself by being honest and vulnerable with him. So, yes. Again, thank y'all for who joined in. Thank you guys for joining in, and for y'all who watching our replay. But until next time, you guys have a blessed one. Bye.